place for Jews and for Jewish Israelis, right? It's the place of birth on the one hand, the place of birth of enlightenment, where we have figures like Immanuel Kant, and philosopher Immanuel Kant, and writer Goethe, and people such as, or basically Moses Mendelssohn, who was the first Jew, if not one of the first Jews, to assimilate and be accepted into German society as almost an equal. But it's also a place of the apocalypse, right? Where years of persecution against Jews in Europe came to its deadliest manifestation in the form of the Holocaust. It's almost as if modernity the trajectory that began with Enlightenment, turned on its head and turned against the Jews in a very mechanized way through the Holocaust. And so it's not the most obvious place for Israelis to choose to go to, right? And for Israelis to leave Israel is a very complicated matter. There used to be a stigma. They were used to be labeled as Yodim, meaning those who went down or led, and they were considered to be as not traitors, but as deserters. And to go to Germany, of all places, I can tell you, I mean, I don't know how many of you have heard the responses in the Israeli media. There are mixed responses. And I can tell you that from my own experience, going home to Israel, when I tell people what I do, so it's not always taken in a very positive way, or what the Israelis are doing there is not taken in a positive way. And I've heard comments such as, oh, how could they do that? And I hate them, and to Berlin of all places, so to Germany, yeah. So this is, it's not an easy thing, it's not an intuitive place to go to, because also it's not a place that Israelis go to better their economic conditions, right? If they want to make money, where do they come? To the United States. Or they would go to Canada, or they would go to Australia. They would not go to Germany. The gold doesn't lie in the streets in Berlin, right? And also, growing up in Israel, the Holocaust is a formative event in our history. And even if the grandparents of somebody are from Morocco, nevertheless, it feels as if they were on the trains to Auschwitz. In Israel, there's the yearly commemoration day for the memory of the Holocaust and heroism, and there are trips to to extermination camps, to Auschwitz. There are school trips to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. And I have to say that, having done research on that, the Holocaust is mentioned, I could say, surely every day in at least one of the media outlets. So even though it's supposedly over with or very, very much in the history, it's still very much alive within an Israeli consciousness. So, and then when you go to Berlin, I have to say, I've been living there for 5 months now, and it's a city that nothing is neutral in it. I lived in New York, where I did my master's and my PhD studies, and it's a completely different experience. So first of all, the German language. So my interviewees, for my research, I'm interviewing Israelis that are living there. Almost all of my interviewees have told me that at first hearing German was almost traumatic for them, very difficult. Also, Germany and Berlin, even cosmopolitan Berlin, is not a very easy place to integrate into. Even Israelis that have been there for years and speak German don't feel that they speak it well enough, and so so they tend to have friends, have English-speaking German friends, or well, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but they don't feel that they have completely integrated. Also, my interviewees have told me that when they see old people walking in the streets, they think about, oh, what were they involved? Were they not involved? So again, everything is loaded with meaning. And then Berlin is like a living museum for the feel about it. And I'm not talking about the big memorial site, for instance, the one in the center of Berlin. I'm talking more about the smaller, spontaneous, individual memorial that were created by individuals. So does anyone here know about the stumbling stones in Berlin? What they are, right? These golden plates and that are embedded in the sidewalks outside of homes from which Jews were taken. So these are privately initiated. I mean, the people in the homes call upon artists who are embedding these golden stones in the pavement, and in which you can find the name of the person that was taken, where they were killed, in which extermination camp, and the years, like their date of birth and date of death. I can tell outside of my house, there are 5. You know, again, you come home late at night, you go in the morning, you see that. There are also, outside of the KaDeWe, do people know what the KaDeWe is in Berlin? Yeah, it's like the Barney's. The nicest department store I've ever been to, and I lived in New York, so I've been to quite nice department stores. So outside by the train station, there is a plaque with names of extermination camps. And it's unavoidable, and you try to ignore it, but you know, still seeing Dachau, Theresienstadt, Auschwitz, it registers somehow. Yeah, my parents came to Berlin recently, and we took a tour in the city, a walking tour. And I learned that I live in Mitte, at the center. I learned that Mitte was a neighborhood in which there were a lot of Jewish refugees that came from the east, from Eastern Europe, and then basically, so it was like kind of a slum area, or in which they lived. And also, I'm not going to continue to with all of the things that are continuously around you. So what are these Israelis doing there in this not neutral, right? This very loaded, complicated place. These so the numbers are between 12,000 to 20,000. Nobody knows exactly how much. They come and go. Some of them have got EU passports, so they don't have to register. So it's very hard to keep track. They are embraced by the German government, I have to say. Which the German government, let me say, is extremely generous with fellowships and scholarships, and yeah, for artists and academics, and apparently Israel is among few countries such as the US, Japan, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, I believe, that are granted, it's much easier for them to get artist visas, or to get all sorts of visas. So we have, like, from the top down, there's an embracing of this immigration. And then what the Israelis are doing, they're opera singers. I'm following specifically one opera singer that moved there to launch her career. They compose classical music. They are academics, and then they are involved in a startup scene, as was mentioned here. And then many of them want to enjoy what Berlin offers today to the Spanish and the Italians in the form of this bohemian lifestyle, right? Berlin is extremely, extremely affordable. It was shocking for me when I moved there from New York to see the prices. I was like, this cannot be so. And it's euros, which is a little bit more than $1, right? So nevertheless, you can get by really well on very little. So they're living their lives. And what I see, one of the most interesting things that I see that is created there today is a cultural center. And it's so interesting that we have this cultural center created in Berlin, of all places, that is based on the Hebrew language. So here there are translation projects that are going on, translating German texts into Hebrew. Has anyone heard of Spitz, the magazine? No? Okay. So Spitz is an online magazine that comes out in Hebrew. And actually, no, they also have a hard copy that they deliver to people's houses once a month. And it's the most hip, the most up-to-date, interesting, deep magazine that comes, or form of publication. I almost wish in Israel there was something like that. And it talks about, so every month there's a feature that somebody that just came to Berlin and how they assimilate and the difficulties and what kind of art they're doing there, or academic work, or high-tech work. They speak about all of the joint art projects of the Israeli artists and German artists. So I can tell you that when I want to know about the most up-to-date things that the Israelis are involved with, I look at Spitz. So that's something that's really interesting that's going on there.